Well, good afternoon, and thank you for your time again. Today, I would like to share Psychological Systemic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, PSIRS for short, a new framework for understanding the mind-body loop. In 2018, Dr. Edward Bullmore released The Inflamed Mind, arguing that inflammation in the body plays a central role in mental health conditions like depression. His work added weight to a growing body of research, showing that immune responses, gut health, and inflammation are deeply connected to how we feel and think. But there's something still missing in this conversation. What if the relationship between mind and body is not just one way? What if our thoughts, our trauma, and our psychological states also trigger physical inflammation in the body? This is the foundation of a new idea, what I call Psychological Systemic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, PSIRS. It's a proposed term for the bidirectional feedback loop between psychological suffering and systemic inflammation. It says that not only can chronic inflammation cause mental distress, but unresolved mental distress, especially trauma, grief, and chronic stress, can create or worsen systemic inflammation in the body. This idea wasn't pulled out of nowhere. It emerged during a personal struggle with physical illness and suicidal depression, and through deep research into cutting-edge studies and overlooked medical evidence. One key piece came from a University of Texas study showing that head trauma could trigger systemic inflammation lasting more than 25 years. This led to a critical realization. If the body can remember trauma in its immune system, then unresolved psychological trauma might be doing the same thing, even without physical injury. The modern medical system often separates physical illness from mental health, but mounting evidence from the study of trauma like PTSD, neuroinflammation, psychoneuroimmunology, and even long COVID, it all points to the same truth. The brain is not separate from the immune system. Stress and trauma can trigger inflammatory markers like cytokines, which affect mood, energy, and long-term health. PSIRS expands on this by showing the cycle. Trauma inflames the body, and inflammation worsens the trauma. It's not linear, but circular. Chronic illness, fatigue, anxiety, and depression can all be symptoms of a mind-body system locked in this feedback loop. This is more than a theory. It is a call for a new kind of healing, one that understands wholeness. Carl Jung spoke of the need to integrate the fragmented self. Nietzsche warned about the dangers of endlessly repeating unresolved pain. Dante mapped the descent into hell and the difficult return. This is that return. For many, the descent into chronic illness or depression feels like being trapped. But this theory argues there is a way back, not just by treating the body or the mind separately, but by understanding their relationship and working with both. The name PSIRS reflects this new understanding. Just like SIRS, Systemic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, is used in critical care to describe the body-wide immune response, PSIRS names the full body cost of psychological pain. It is a way to make visible what has remained hidden. That trauma doesn't only live in memory or mood. It lives in the blood, it lives in the nerves, and it lives in the immune system. And just as importantly, healing is not just about calming the immune system, but about finding emotional safety, meaning, and reconnection. Medical science is slowly catching up to this, but many people suffering today can't wait for slow reform. They need frameworks that validate their experience now, especially those with chronic conditions that have been dismissed, diagnosed or labeled as all in their heads. PSIRS says it's in both. The theory is for those on the edge, for those who've tried everything, who live with invisible pain, and who feel trapped in cycles they can't explain. It offers language, evidence, and hope. It says if trauma can inflame the body, healing the mind can calm it, and that the hardest journey isn't the fall into illness, but the climb back towards wholeness. Thank you.